Thank you for tuning in to Summary Judgment, where Austin personal injury attorneys Josh Fogelman and Aaron Von Flatern of FVF Law discuss the ins, outs, and in-betweens of personal injury cases.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, Josh.
Who's that in that chair over there?
That's Mike Moody.
Who's Mike Moody?
Who isn't Mike Moody? Mike Moody is the owner of Record ATX, where we do our podcast, but he's so much more than that.
Yes, indeed.
What else do we know about Mike Moody?
Well, Mike is a former client of FVF. His wife, Jeannie, was a client of ours some years ago, and we reconnected sort of spontaneously and randomly when we decided to start doing this podcast, and walked in, and there was Mike, and the rest is history.
Why don't we just let him talk?
Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Did you guys know this was my business when you booked?
I don't think so.
We
No?
did not. It's such a crazy story because I had a friend who records out of here, and I saw her stuff, and I was like, that's a great, look, that's everything that we want. And so I brought it back to the guys and said, hey, here's an opportunity where we could do our recording, podcasting, all those things.
Yeah.
And it was the retroactive. We were like, oh my gosh.
Right.
So it was, it really was just like an amazing serendipitous moment.
Yeah, it's been great having you here.
It makes it better.
Well, we wanted to allow our listeners to get to know you a little bit through one of those sort of cheesy 20 rapid fire questions.
Okay,
Are you up for that?
let's do it.
You seem like a good sport. Josh, you go ahead and get started. I'm going to jump in. Every other question we're going to do, and here's the rule. You can skip 2 of these.
Okay.
Because we actually did 22 questions.
Oh, gosh.
But if
It's going to be only 18.
if you get through all 22, there's a prize
Oh,
that Dave is going to figure out during the podcast.
We'll decide later.
All right.
okay. I like prizes.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. What's the secret talent?
Oh, podcasting?
What's your favorite time of day?
Not very secret, actually. 4 a.m. because I'm asleep.
What's the weirdest word in the English language?
Rhubarb.
Okay.
Vintage or new?
Vintage.
A skill you're working on mastering.
Being on camera.
Window or aisle seat?
Window.
What's your current TV obsession? Favorite binge-worthy show?
Oh, gosh. Silo on Apple TV.
Nice. What's your favorite app?
Favorite app? Oof. Not Twitter. Instagram.
Instagram?
Yeah.
If you could master one instrument, what would it be?
Saxophone.
Do you have a favorite piece of clothing that you wear?
Do shoes count as clothing?
Yes.
Probably not.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. My Pumas.
Awesome.
Dark or milk chocolate?
Milk chocolate.
Here's a fun one. What's inspiring you in life right now?
My spouse, Jeannie.
Correct
She's been
answer.
through a lot and keeps going.
On that note, we want to learn a little bit more about you and let the audience learn a little bit more about you in a couple of different capacities. Obviously, Aaron and I are entrepreneurs. We're small business owners in Austin, Texas. And you are also an entrepreneur and a small business owner in Austin. And we find that we like talking to people about their journey into business ownership, what the experience has been like, how they have found a sense of purpose and fulfillment out of it. So you're here, you own Record ATX. Tell us about how you got here. What were you doing before you were providing an amazing place for people like us to come and talk about random things?
I spent most of my career as a journalist working with local newspapers. I also worked with newspapers in California. Was really an entertainment journalist and pivoted to writing for a lot of online outlets, interviewing celebrities, doing film reviews, television reviews, things like that. And that was right about when podcasting started to take off. So I had a lot of media contacts, so I got invited on a lot of podcasts. So I started doing that, kind of got the bug, and started my own podcast, taught myself everything I needed to know about it. And my co-founder and I, Grant Davis, you guys know Grant, we decided we didn't really start this to be a business. It was more just like a hobby. let's find a space so we can each do our own content. And if people want to use it, maybe we can charge them some money. And 6, 7 years later, it's really taken off. We started as audio only, pivoted to video. Our clients have been really great and vocal about letting us know what they want and what they expect. And we have a lot of clients that are very cognizant of trends in content. So it's great to get feedback from them. They help us grow a lot. That's a big reason why we pivoted to video. And now more than 90% of our business is video. We were audio only before. And we really become video experts over the years and content experts. And it's been super rewarding doing this.
It's always been so easy coming in here. And there's people can't see it all, but there's a lot of rig up here.
Right.
A lot of like equipment sort of running this in the background that makes it sound as good as it does. And I don't know, I guess the viewers and listeners can decide for themselves, but I find the quality to be amazing, especially compared to what Josh and I first tried to do. Do you remember?
Oh, absolutely.
I want to hear about this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we started this podcast during COVID
Mm-hmm.
or shortly there before. I think it was during COVID. And we were literally plugging microphones into our computers from our respective houses. And
Yeah, I found a
Zooming.
website called Amazon.com.
Oh,
They had
sure.
a
Yeah.
microphone and some kind of lighting device, I think. And man, it was very, very bad acoustics.
You see, that can work, but I think what we offer is people don't have to mess with the tech or the gear or anything. Essentially, you just come and sit down and talk.
And it's comfortable.
it's been a very positive experience for us so far. But you said that before you started a podcast studio, you actually had a podcast. What was your podcast about?
My podcast was, I worked as a film reviewer and media critic for a while. So it was essentially that, reviewing movies and television shows. Now I'd bring on guests, sometimes writers from TV shows and, people in the creative field and interview them. It was kind of not super focused. I just wanted to try it out. I did that for a couple of years. It was fun.
Hey, media critic Mike Moody, what do you think about the FVF Law podcast?
I think it's very good.
Those guys are, they seem like they're well trained.
I think, I don't want to disparage other branded podcasts that I see or, try to model from, but what you guys do is very honest and naturalistic. And I think you really convey who you are, not only as a brand, as a business, but as people really well on the mic and on camera. I know because I know you. I worked with you guys. And what you put out into the world when you come here and record it is who you are in business and in front of the camera. And I think that's really what you have to do. If a big part of your brand in business is about your authentic self, if you're in the business you're in because you really have a passion to be in it and you really want to help people, of course, put that out there. Be yourselves, be natural. And that's what you do. So I think it's doing a great job.
I used to have, first of all, thank you. You will receive your bonus now that you said that.
Make sure Dave gets it too.
Yeah, Dave as well.
I'm taking notes.
I used to tell people when I first met them and they were like, well, what do you do? And I would say, I'm a personal injury lawyer. I used to also have sort of an excuse me, I'll explain that statement behind that. And I've found the most true statement that I can give them that conveys how I feel different about it than they might be imagining is I tell them straight away, I love what we do. I just really love the work that we do. I love the clients we work with. I love the outcomes. I love the challenge. I love working with this caveman. It's
Geico caveman.
Yeah. I love working with the caddy from Caddyshack.
But more like the caddy from Happy Gilmore.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
right
yeah.
caddy.
I
That is the correct caddy.
Show up
Thank
without
you.
shoes.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you for saying that. That's how I personally feel. should we get to more questions?
Yeah, well, I would like, starting your own business can be scary, when you're coming from a world where you're used to a certain type of steady paycheck. I understand journalism can be kind of hit or miss depending on where you are in that world, but you get to know an industry, you get comfortable in an industry, you are relying on, on somebody else to shoulder the risk of being able to provide you a paycheck. I'd like to kind of hear from you as an entrepreneur. What was the decision-making process like for you when you decided to start your own business and rely on yourself and your own skills to take that risk on? And what were some of the challenges that you faced along the way?
Yeah, the decision did not come easy, and it was actually pretty daunting, but so far it's paid off. I had to change careers a couple years before we opened the studio. Obviously, journalism is a difficult field in these days, and I pivoted to work for essentially I was a corporate copywriter, which was fine, paid well, and like you said, it great benefits. But coming from a newsroom background, being a journalist, having several years where my main paycheck came from interviewing celebrities and writing film reviews, it just felt I wasn't a great fit for the corporate office environment.
A little flat.
Yeah. I just needed to get out of there.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people know that feeling. And of course, I had my creative outlets outside of that job. But part of that is feeling that way is really what pushed me to do something for myself. I just needed to be my own boss. And luckily, around that time when I was really just getting stressed out at my corporate job, the studio started to take off. So when we started it, it was a part-time venture for Grant and I. And maybe about 3 years into it, and those 3 years, we kind of just count them as 1 year because we didn't advertise. We didn't really have many clients. We didn't even have video yet. It was just a place. And we started out in the attic of a church downtown, a 3-story walk-up of a really old building that had really bad HVAC issues.
What should we call out that church? Like, was that 12th Street or?
Actually, it was on South Congress. It
Okay.
was at that time it was South Congress Baptist. I think it's called the Church on Congress now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big brown church on South Congress across from where they used to have that costume shop. Yeah.
If you're listening, Church on Congress, we love you.
Thank you.
We want you to be safe with
Yeah.
that HVAC system.
And they were great. But of course, we wanted to expand. That was a limited space. And I think just through, like you guys, just through loving what we do and that coming across, not just in our personalities, but in the way we do business, just helped us succeed. And listening to our clients helped us to grow and add new services and just offer what people wanted. And luckily, we're excited by all that. But yeah, it was really challenging trusting myself and trusting my co-founder and trusting that we would have clients and trusting that this business climate of content is king would continue. And so far, it just seems to be growing. If you have a business, even if you don't, everyone needs content. Whether you're doing video or audio, it's growing, and we're growing along with it. So, yeah, I think we made the right decision.
I'm a fan, and I used to, at our holiday parties, talking to our team, I used to talk about this concept of the world is basically asking you to consume content constantly. Yeah. And there comes a point where you have to look at that and say, what about producing content? There's producing content in this very formal sense like we're doing now. There's also the idea that out in the world, you can just be creative and you can create experiences for people around you. And you can think in those same terms of, am I in consumption mode or production mode? And for us, all of our lawyers, we want them to be creative on these cases. We want them to be in production mode at all times. So, this is 100% in line with our kind of ethos. And it's so cool to be connected to you. Also, just coincidentally connected through a case that you had. And I don't know how comfortable you are talking about that.
I'm happy to talk. Yeah.
You were in a car crash, or
my wife was.
Your wife was, and or I should say, that car crash affected your family. Let's start there.
Yeah.
And this is a case that Josh had handled, and then also another partner of ours had handled. So, what was the feeling when it first happened, and then kind of what was the feeling at the end?
When it first happened, it was devastating. It was scary. My wife was recovering from surgery at the time, and she was just on the tail end of recovery. She was getting better. It was a major surgery. She had nerve decompression surgery in the back of her neck, very sensitive surgery. She had to take a lot of time off from work. She's at the time, she was a public school teacher, and now she's a librarian. But she was just staying home recovering for several weeks and feeling better one week, decided, I can go to Target, I can go to the store, I can get out. So she was driving to Target, not even a mile and a half away from our house, and just got rammed.
It must have been just crushing to have the universe tell her no.
Yeah.
When she's like that moment where she's trying to get out and do it.
And she's a spiritual person, so she has a lot of strength. But sometimes in the moment, being a spiritual person, you can have really uncomforting, intrusive thoughts, like, oh, the world is against me at this point, Yeah. And so not only was it a physical blow, it was a emotional one for her and I. It set her recovery back several months.
And at the time, immediately you don't know that it's just going to set it back a couple months. No. You don't know if it's ever going to get back to where it had been immediately. Yeah. And there's a lot of anxiety about that. I remember very specifically about that.
For weeks, I was like, is she going to be in pain forever? What is our life? And of course, she had to take a lot of time off from work, and we maybe couldn't afford that at that time. But luckily, we, on the advice of a friend, got us to contact you and pursue what we did. And that was just so helpful. The process was lengthy, as I'm sure these processes are. However, there was comfort in it because just the way your team handled it was we just felt the outcome would be positive. Not necessarily that was always communicated to us, but we felt that we were in good hands, I guess is the best way to say it.
I'm so glad you still have what sound like positive feelings, because one of the things that I have anxiety about is there's making the client happy, and then there's making the future client happy, the person, 10 years hence, and this was quite a while ago, not quite 10 years, but it was a while ago, making the person or the family in this case, who's waking up, 10, 20, 30 years later, look back at that experience and still have some positive feelings toward what is obviously a negative event in their lives. That makes me feel really good. It's really great to hear. We didn't really know that when we talked about having you on the podcast. We didn't know that you had still these good positive feelings about us, and it's great to hear. Yeah.
I'd be interested. I know I don't want this to be some self-serving ad. It's just totally universe put you here and the stars aligned, and we got to talking about, whether having you on the podcast would be enjoyable for a number of different reasons, and talking about your experience. This is why you're here, not to toot our horn.
Right.
But I think we're an educational podcast, and so I'd love to kind of hear from you what the experience was like of working with a personal injury law firm compared to maybe what you expected the experience to be like based on what you knew about personal injury attorneys at the time.
Sure. I was really new to this world, obviously. So was Jeannie. So it was really on the advice of a couple friends who pushed us to do it. Like, you need help. You're not in the wrong here. This will help you. I was definitely reluctant. Um, I guess from my perspective, it just seemed like not a great thing to do. It just didn't seem like the right thing to do. And I'm totally convinced that it is and that it was. Not that I ever knew anything really about what what personal injury lawyers do, but I just felt like, okay, the world gave us another blow. We got to suffer through it. I don't know how this is going to work. And honestly, I was just despondent for a while about it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do if it wasn't for some friends to prop us up and to really guide us to a place like yours. I don't know. It would have been bad. So yeah, my perspective at the beginning was doubtful and just really uneducated. But you guys really showed me what it's like. And really from the first meeting, it was a good vibe. It was a good vibe from the first meeting. I think both of you were there at the first meeting. Maybe you were somewhat new at, putting your practice together, but you felt like you gave a damn.
Yeah.
And you were invested not only in what had happened to us and trying to help us, but you talked about your history as well. And it seemed like you were really invested in helping a lot of people who would come to you. So it just felt safe.
I feel like you described the problem that we set out to solve, which is the hesitancy to hire a personal injury lawyer sometimes can lead to some bad outcomes for people because they're leaving a lot on the table. They're entering into a very complex transaction with a sometimes multi-billion-dollar insurance company, clearly at a disadvantage, and yet they're held back by some of the perceptions of personal injury law.
Yeah.
And so changing the perception of personal injury law is something from the very beginning we thought could not only give us a business, because we don't need market share if we have this new group of people who otherwise wouldn't even hire a lawyer. But it would be something that would give us kind of a fire, something that would be exciting for us to work on, something bigger than ourselves. And so to hear that you had that mindset going into it, it's kind of good to hear because that's where we assumed people were. And it's validating for me to know that there's a way to get through.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when it was all said and done, y'all were better off having worked with a personal injury lawyer than you would have been if you hadn't?
Oh, no question. Yeah. Yeah, no question. The outcome was very favorable, but really what it did is the outcome and the journey to it really allowed Jeannie the time and space to heal. She didn't have to go back to work right away. If she did, it would have been not great for her healing journey. So yeah, she got to take some time off and really heal. That helped pay for a lot of the medical issues that we had to deal with after the crash. And honestly, it just inspired us to take space for each other and for ourselves and to learn that you can take time out and heal, because honestly, the outcome allowed us to do that.
Yeah. Space to heal and space to grieve are things that we believe are core to our mission, giving people that space. Money can't help with everything. It can help with what it can help with. Yeah. And that space is sometimes just precious. And so really glad to hear that was impactful for you.
It was really impactful. And part of that space that we took for ourselves and for, my mental healing journey throughout that, hers, and of course her physical healing journey was, part of that is kind of why I have this business, because I had to put things into perspective. Like what do I want in life right now? I want her healed. I want her happy. I should be healed and happy. Having this corporate job is not doing it. What do I want to do? And really not, in tandem with the financial outcome of the case and with the space provided, really that I wouldn't have this business if we didn't have that outcome. So thank you.
Thank you. I can tell you some of the, what makes, and I want to hear about what makes this job fulfilling for you, but I can tell you that what makes this job fulfilling for us is learning ex post facto what the closure in the case, both just shutting the door to having that part of a person's life over, at least kind of the litigious or adversarial and unknown aspect of it, having that over and having received some sort of favorable outcome, how that reshapes people's lives. And honestly, it's something that we hear over and over from our clients about, oh, well, I was able to go back to nursing school and become those kind of stories are what help make it easy to keep going in this business, because this business is hard.
Sure.
It's taxing.
Yeah.
It's incredibly stressful and adversarial. You're fighting all the time.
Yeah.
You're awake at night and you carry the burden on your shoulders all the time. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
But when you hear that the work that you're doing is truly making a difference in the lives of those people who have entrusted you, it makes it easy and really rewarding. How have you found, shifting back to you and kind of away from the personal injury case relationship that we had, how have you found, if you have found, how do you find fulfillment and purpose and joy in the work that you do here?
Well, I like to take all the experiences that I've had professionally and just pour them into what I'm doing here. And when I see that the outcome is positive for a client, like, it's just so fulfilling professionally and personally, because we have 4 studio rooms here. This is one of them. I designed all of them. I didn't know I had that in me.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could do interior design. And I always knew I liked interior design.
Yeah.
And I would watch reality shows about it and would think that'd be kind of cool to do. And I got a chance to do it here. And people love it.
Yeah.
And people
autonomy.
Exactly.
And the tangible, visible result of that effort.
And people love associating their brand with what I've designed, with not just the look of the space, but how we do things like calibrate the gear to make it look and sound a certain way. And those are just things that I've learned. It's technical, but it's also art.
Yeah.
And that's super fulfilling when somebody can come in here and say, this is perfect, let's get it done. It's also fulfilling when somebody can say, actually, that doesn't work for me. Can we do this? And I learned something and I can change things up and do it better. So it's really just about serving with what I have to offer and growing. And I especially love that we can help out certain brands and businesses that are trying to do good in the world. I think like you, definitely. We've helped out a few charities that have had podcast or needed a space to film content. We've done that before. We're hoping to do that a lot more going forward now that we have, the potential to do that. But yeah, it's just really fulfilling. I've always been interested in being a creative person in film and media, and I never exactly knew where to put that, emphasis or talent, and it's all landed here and it feels good.
Yeah.
Well, discourse, is one of the things that makes our country unique, and it's so important, such an important part of the fabric of our democracy. I mean, I understand that we're all struggling a little bit with that right now, but the reality of it is we all have a voice in this country, and not everyone can say that in this world. And I think it's pretty awesome that you provide a platform where people can come and have their voice heard, and you make it so easy and accessible. I mean, the work that you do could feasibly help anybody reach millions and millions and millions of people, and that's what the world needs.
Yeah, positive impact on mental health, really. People are getting what they need out of the content that is not, it's divisive or something like that. There's probably a lot of podcasts here in this building that are really helping someone, so it's cool for you to be a part of that. And And I just really appreciate the little touches that you do here.
No, thanks.
So thank you. Do you think we could ask you a few more rapid fire questions that Dave can splice in later?
Oh yeah.
Since we
How about this? When Aaron and I were sitting here preparing for some podcasting today, we were asking each other what our best celebrity interaction was.
Oh yeah.
Like I understand that you maybe have some experience interviewing celebrities.
Yeah.
So it only seems appropriate that we ask you,
Yeah.
what is the most interesting interaction you've had with a celebrity in your life?
Most of my celebrity encounters were either over the phone or, back then it was Skype. But I had a great interview experience with Sigourney Weaver
Wow.
a little over a decade ago.
That's a big one.
Yeah, she was great. And I did get a scoop from her at that point about the next Ghostbusters movie, that she was going to be in it. So that was cool. And people didn't know that
That's
at that
awesome.
time.
wow.
But one of the great things was we were supposed to go. It was, she's just doing a press junket for some Lifetime movie she was in. And I'm writing for some blog. And we didn't have a lot of time. She's like 15 minutes. Okay. She stayed on me for over an hour. Just at the beginning, I didn't fanboy out, but I said, you're one of my favorite actors and you're hugely inspiring to my wife. She loves everything you do. When she was a kid, she saw you kick an alien's ass and that made her think she could do it too. And then that just opened her up and connected on a human level. And I was recording the interview, so she was nice enough to record a special message for my wife, which I played later, which made me a hero. So
Oh, wow.
it was great.
That's awesome. I actually tried to encourage my daughter to watch the original Aliens the other day for Halloween, and she wouldn't do it.
She's correct. She's 11.
That's-
Josh.
She's 12, but
She could handle it.
I
Yeah.
think
between
so
11 and
too.
12.
I think so too.
Older movies, though, now they're older movies. The kids are like, it's too slow. They are kind of,
I can't watch the movie Aliens.
She got bored while watching The Shining. Right, just start unpackaging that.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you so much for being on here today. We
Thank you.
appreciate everything that you do. We appreciate the support that you and your family have given to the firm and continue to give to the firm through this studio, and appreciate you providing this amazing platform for everybody in our community. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for everything you've done for us and for everyone. And thanks for having me on.
It was our pleasure.